First of all, Tom Hardiman's debut feature, Medusa Deluxe, that you just saw, was supported by BBC Film and BFI and premiered at Locarno Film Festival in 2022. The film is being released by Mubi and A24 in summer 2023. Summer, which just started 5 days ago. All right. Tom's work as a filmmaker started with a series of short films, including award-winning Radical Hardcore and Pitch Black Panacea. Come on through, Thomas. Big round of applause for Thomas. Welcome. It is intense. I have that effect. It's my shirt. So Mia Bays is a creative producer, distribution strategist, and positive disruptor in film. She's been in the film industry for 30 years, in 2021 working on over 150 features in both fiction and documentary. Big round of applause for Mia. All right, guys, take it away.
Wow, thank you. That was a hype and a half.
Thanks a lot.
Right, so let's get to it. So we're going to have a 20-minute conversation, then we'll open it up to the floor. So let's start, Tom, with how it's always interesting. Like, at what point did you know you were creative, and why did film find you? Were you always a film fan?
No, not at the start. I actually liked art. Like I'd studied art, and art's kind of my first passion. So like I really liked experimental art cinema, and that's when I can't quite work out where it needs to be. And I think like anyone, I started drawing all that kind of stuff, and then eventually went towards I looked at Steve McQueen's art a lot at the time, and I was kind of just looking at a lot of video artists actually, and I thought there was a moment where I didn't think there was as many possibilities in film as I thought there were in art. And then I suddenly saw Steve McQueen make his first film, Cleo Barnard's The Arbor, Archipelago as well, Jonah Hogg. And I started to look back at maybe British filmmakers from like the early 90s. Obviously, Derek Jarman. I really like a film called London by Patrick Keeler. And I think at that point, I started to feel like there was more possibility in film. And then a film called Weekend got made. And I remember Weekend was like a massive film for me because I knew it was shot on a 5D, which sounds really dry. I love the film and I love the storytelling, but the fact that it was shot on a 5D and I bought one off eBay and I was like, wow, it's possible. And then I basically, at the time I was working for the BBC building sets, and when I worked for, I basically was like, I've got to get into British independent film, worked on Catch Me Daddy, The Goob, and then eventually thought I'd get into directing. But yeah, art was actually my first the thing that really mattered to me. And then film became like all encompassing and destroyed my life at some point.
We'll come back to that point. And then can you talk, how did you take your first steps though as a writer director? How did you even find the confidence and then the means and then the collaborators?
Well, first, actually, there's two things. I guess I was always making stuff on the side. Weirdly, we were just talking about the theatre shop in Woolworth Road. Like, I made this short film, which was kind of about two guys in a flat, and I wanted to do a shot which went across. They lived in, when you get flats which are opposite each other and there's a road in between them, and I wanted to string a camera from one side of the road to the other. And I went to that theatre shop, bought the pulley system, built a pulley system, went from one room to another, and got this guy to kind of like wind the camera all the way across this road with dogs playing down below. And that was kind of like the sort of stuff I was trying to make. I was trying to make kind of like work out how you can use a camera in an interesting way alongside telling a kind of story that engages people. And that was at the time just doing it after work, and then like over time you realize it was more formative than you knew when you were doing it. But like I think I wrote something. I did a lot of talks with a guy who was a hypnotist, and he was like a hypnotherapist, and I kind of got really interested in it, wrote something with him, then thought like I'd love to start writing something about carpets, and that became Radical Hardcore.
As you do.
Yeah. I was kind of, as I was saying, I was just really, I really like patterns, and I was trying to work out how I could make something about pattern interesting for other people, because I realised no one else likes carpets in the way I do, and kind of like, how do you make that engaging? And I think at the time I was starting to put things together in my head. Like I was aware that I was in like, I was kind of, modern media was kind of part of my life in a different way to what it had been previously, in the sense of like, I knew that if you have an interest in something, you can go and look at Wikipedia for like 5 minutes and become an expert. And I was thinking like, that's changing how we're interacting with storytelling. And can I put that as part of what was going to become radical hardcore. And so
which is your first short.
Yeah, sorry, I'm not saying this quite as eloquently as I probably should, but it's kind of like, I was thinking, like, I want to write about carpets, I want to write a love story about carpets, and I want to write a story about Wikipedia. And so I was trying to put those three things together. And Guy, who you probably know of the Goob, I was in the edit for the Goob, and I said I want to write a love story about carpets, and he was like, "Do it!" And it was weird. I think I was listening to a lot of Kanye West at the time as well, before he was mad. Well, he's always been mad, but there's something about Kanye that every third song he writes, there's something in it that he's like, "Just do it, just do it." And I think something between Guy and Kanye made me literally go, "I'm going to quit my job and do it," which was like, genuinely what happened actually. And I quit working for Mike and put all my savings into radical hardcore, and luckily people liked it and gave me a chance to do other things.
Wow, so you entirely paid for it yourself?
Yeah, I did. It was weird. Like, at the time it seemed like totally logical, and then about 4 years later it seemed totally mental. But it's kind of it was worth it, I guess, in the long run. But it's it was. I did 3 shorts back to back, and no one ever saw the other 2. And so,
you successfully buried them, because I was trying to find them.
Although they are on IMDb, someone put them up, and they were only ever shown in an art gallery. But they were just experiments. I wanted to see. I knew Radical Hardcore was the lead of them, and then I realised I had a bit more kind of. If you rent stuff, you've got, you rent it over a weekend. So I knew I was going to film Radical on the Saturday. So I was like, well, I've got this equipment on the Sunday, and I found these. This like group of bikers, like women who had all had divorces, and they'd all become bikers in their 50s, and it was just really amazing. And I spent like a lot of time with them, made a kind of small documentary with them, and just showed it in an art gallery. But really, I was just trying to learn. I was just
got a very wide variety of interests, haven't you, Tom?
I don't know. You just you kind of gravitate towards stuff.
It's a wonderful, wide-ranging, imaginative space you exist in. And there's also some rather fabulous carpet on the wall I thought I'd point out. And now, then the next short, before we come to Medusa Deluxe, the next short, Pitch Black Panacea, was actually more officially funded, correct?
Yeah.
So then you find other people. So how did that happen? BFI Network funded that, correct? Yeah. And Dazed as well?
No.
No, that was the other one. Right,
Nowness,
right.
And they kind of, they came. It was amazing. It really was, actually. Like, because I was like doing sort of ads and music videos just to learn, basically, and trying to work out how I could kind of keep going, and got a chance to do another short. And my granddad was blind, so kind of I'd always had an interest in kind of blindness, and I came across this story of basically, obviously, if you have like a lazy eye in England, you can kind of go and get it sorted on the NHS, whereas in America a lot of people don't have that chance. And they were trying to work out this kind of slightly like therapeutic kind of healing, and they were sticking these 2 people in a kind of black room for a prolonged period of time. But unfortunately, one of them went mad in the process, because it was like 3 weeks in a black room. And I just thought it was an interesting story, and it kind of just made me think of my granddad. So that's how I came to Pitch Black Panacea,
which merges live action, and a lot of it, which fundamentally is animation.
Yes.
So you're also pitching around practicing in lots of different formats as well at this point.
Yeah, I kind of I love the Fleischer Brothers. Like, I've always loved early Disney, specifically the Fleischer Brothers, because there's a kind of like, there's an uncanny, I don't know, subversiveness to their animation, if I can actually say that word. But like, I'm always generally trying to put things together a little bit. Like, I knew I liked Fleischer, I knew I liked this story, I had a kind of emotional link to it, and I was just trying to work out how you can put them together, because I keep having this feeling that like storytelling, it's getting like stretched to its limits at the moment. Like, I had this, like everyone in the 70s grew up like using a Bolex or using like just a camera, and that's how they got into cinema. And I realized that like that wasn't, for me, it just wasn't the way in. Like, the first time I ever used a camera was in Mario. Like, and I just realized that even though like a lot of storytelling in computer games is kind of pathetic, like, sorry, not to be mean, I like computer games, but not like, the storytelling's just not there all the time. Recently it started to be there, and there's interesting things happening, and that was what was it's always been this underlying thing. Like, when I was talking about Wikipedia on Radical Hardcore, it's like trying to work out how we can kind of reflect the world we're living in, not just in the storytelling, but in the way you're making it at the same time. That's kind of been the kind of something that's always been there, and I didn't really recognize it until Medusa probably as much.
And so when did the spark of Medusa Deluxe start, and who helped you light it?
I mean, I love hairdressing. I don't know actually. How did it come about? Blimey, I think I'd always followed hairdressing. Like, I love fashion, and I've always been interested in fashion, and I'm interested in comedy specifically because you can be kind of, you can exist in a space where you can undercut yourself very quickly, and it's kind of like you've got the high and the low of something. And so hairdressing, all of the spaces I'm kind of interested in have that thing where you can be gossipy and ridiculous and kind of have these characters who seem, like they haven't got a care in the world, but then obviously like they do care about something. There is this kind of overriding passion, so you can be kind of realistic and absurd at the same time, and that's what I'm always going for. Like, I love absurdist comedy. I like actually the British heritage of absurdist comedy, like the Spike Milligan novels and stuff, and all of that, and Peter Cook and everyone who got here. And I'm always looking for those places where it's like, how can I kind of get between something that's so plainly ridiculous but get everyone to take it incredibly seriously. And so like when I was thinking about Medusa, I was thinking hairdressing is just the perfect world. It gives me everything that I was after. Like, it's something I genuinely love, and I can actually enjoy the characters, but I can do something that can be very realistic at the same time as being completely ludicrous.
And who's helping you on this journey? At what point do you find funding and collaborators to actually take this into really being applying the practical to your wild imagination? How does this happen?
Yeah, I guess I don't know. I guess everyone has the same thing. You luck out. Like, I was taught by someone called Una at uni, and when I was at art school, and Una happened to be with her partner's Tony Grisoni, and Tony wrote Red Riding, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, amazing stuff. And I always got on with her. I didn't actually know that Tony was her partner, and then when I got out of uni, I got an email saying, does anyone need a job? And that was the job at the BBC. Then I really wanted to get out, and I kind of got another email from Tony when I kind of knew him a bit better, saying, I know this guy called Mike who did all the Michael Winterbottom films. Sorry, Mike is not Michael Winterbottom, but he had first did all of Michael's films. And he was setting up a production company called Emu, at which eventually did Catch Me Daddy and a lot of other films. And I worked for Emu, and that was basically everything.
As an assistant?
Yeah. And I kind of, everything I've ever used has come from that job. Like, it was everything to me. Like, we did this Sky, like, just when Sky were getting into drama, they did a series of like shorts where they basically kind of got big actors to kind of do a 30-minute thing, and Mike produced all of them. I was like the random assistant, and I just did a day in every single department on every single different film. But the crews were like just ridiculous. Like, they had Ian Softly directing one who brought the DOP from Gladiator and stuff, and I remember just kind of just sitting there trying to work it all out, because the way he lit it, like, I've been on TV shows for like kids shows basically, where everything you're building, because I was in art departments, you have like a day to build it. It looks terrible. Everything's awful in it, and not awful as in like a lot of hard work and a lot of good kind of lovely people, but it's just you've not got time. And so when I was like looking at him lighting, it was a thing called The Man, and it had like Stellan Skarsgård in it, it had Stephen Fry. It was just like so incredible. And then like he had 20k lights outside every single window, and I'd just never seen anything like that. And then the next job was David Katz-Nelson, who was doing Downton Abbey at the time. And it was the jump between everyone filming on film and everyone filming on, Arri Alexas and digital. And like the amount of negative fill that David Katz-Nelson was using in the second of those, I can't remember what it was called, had Emma Thompson as well, which was just so bonkers. And you're there kind of going like, someone who's grown up on film is shooting by putting all the lights outside, letting the lights spill in, using Atmos, and kind of like, he wasn't on the camera, whereas David Katz-Nelson was on the camera, and then he was lighting it exactly the same way, but then trying to take as much light out so that the Arri didn't get overlit, because obviously like 35mm, you can, it's always going to look amazing virtually whatever, whereas digital, you have to be really careful. And to be able to be there when suddenly seeing that come about and all the DOPs having to work with that was it was pretty incredible. Like, it was really, and then Robbie actually shot Catch Me Daddy, which became a kind of big experience for me. The Goob, Simon Tyndall shot, and it was amazing actually. Like, it was really kind of formative stuff. Sorry, I'm getting really into it.
And then, and so that's how you first met Robbie Ryan, who does a pretty spectacular job on everything he works on. Yeah. But, this is a particular incredible technical feat, Medusa Deluxe. So let's talk about how did you persuade Robbie to be your collaborator first, because you really, really needed someone who would go on the adventure with you because it's a massive technical feat. So, and maybe explain what the technical feat is, because I think we're all filmmakers here, so hopefully people will, let's not assume that everybody might understand.
Of course. Yeah. And thanks for staying. Like, it's, I'll be quick, but it's, so Robbie, it was weird, right? Because I was just an assistant on Catch Me Lady. And so like, I was talking to Robbie a lot actually at the time there. And you know, when you think someone's just talking to you because you're just there, and then over a couple of years, you realize that like they actually like you, sort of thing. And so that was what it was like with me and Robbie. I just thought I was just this guy who he could talk to. And then I like film in the same way he does. Like, you know, he watches an incredible amount of films and always wants to talk about them. There's nothing else. I mean, there's a lot of other things in his life, but it's really exciting. And then when I started making stuff, I was always like, I had this thing that I'd worked in film already, and everyone who makes shorts always pulls every favour from everyone. They always want to persuade the people they know. And I had this thing that I didn't want to do that. I really wanted to work with people who had no idea, never met me, and persuade them to work with me because of the quality of what I was doing, which was quite, you know, not always successful. And kind of like, you know, Ula Ponskos shot Radical Hardcore actually. And I remember that meeting was so bonkers. We met, she had a film showing in the Mayfair Hotel, and she goes, "Oh, can you come and quickly meet me?" And we had this meeting, and I was like, she was like, "Why would you ever want to make something about carpets? This is going to be a disaster." And so I walked out thinking, well, we're never going to work together. And she phoned me up the next day. She's like, "Great, when's the recce? Of course I'm doing it." It was like a really amazing thing. And then over time, yeah, you just start working with people. And once it got to Medusa, it was just a kind of, I'd been talking to Robbie a lot that summer anyway, actually. And like, I just, not necessarily about the film. And then it came up. It was kind of, I just had this thing that he would really like it and enjoy it. And I basically said, like, "Look, here's a script. Like, no, if you like it, great. If you don't, no problem." And then he just really went for it. And like, I mean, he's like the best person in the world. Like, he's such an electric presence. And then when we were shooting, like, I could just look across at him, and he's got this thing about, he enjoys being on set. He enjoys the physical part of making a film. And I have a kind of similar thing. Like, I'm not there to like have a massive argument with everyone. I don't need to have that kind of creative antagonism sort of thing. I want it to be a kind of collegiate mentality. And he's similar, I think. And I could kind of look across, and it was just, yeah, he's just an amazing human being, actually.
And on, I'd like to also cover cast, and then we'll open it up. But such a refreshingly diverse cast, topped off by Claire Perkins, who I just absolutely adore.
Yeah.
I just we don't see her enough, so thank you for her, and particularly the way she says George and Fontange is particularly pleasing. So can you talk a bit about the importance of collaboration, also because with your cast, but also it's a particular technical feat to shoot, to perform in this way.
Sorry, I didn't say about technical feat at all, did I? I'll get back to that.
The one take wonder.
Yeah, like, I mean, Claire's just like, it's funny because we were talking about Ken Loach just outside, and like the reason Claire is in this film is quite specifically linked to Raining Stones, because I remember I grew up on Coronation Street. My mum watched Coronation Street every single week. Oh, sorry, night, isn't it? It must have been 3 times a week, wasn't it? And like, I always remember Les Battersby was like the best character, and I was always thinking, what an amazing, like, and then I saw Raining Stones and realised he'd come from the Ken Loach film into that. I just thought it was amazing, because it's like, you know, like if you're on EastEnders or something, everyone just assumes you're an EastEnders actor. They don't think you've got all these other things. Like, she's an amazing theatre actor. Like, she's got an entire career outside of that. And I just remember saying, you know, to Gary, who was casting this, like, I really want to think way outside of like, I don't want it just to feel like, you know, classic kind of, just the actors you might expect. Like, I really wanted to reach further. And yeah, he came in with Claire, and so just casting her was just incredible. I remember sitting opposite her, just being terrified. And so Claire plays Cleve at the beginning of the film, and yeah, just immediately wanting her to be in it. Actually, it was like, yeah. And in terms of like the feat of, yeah, I guess shooting something like this, it's kind of like, I always wanted rehearsal to be a part of it. Like, I remember working on other projects thinking, directors very rarely get any time to rehearse anything, which I found quite strange. I've never really understood it. And so I wrote Medusa with a thought in mind that I wanted rehearsal to be a really big part of making it, just because that's kind of how I work, and I think it's quite important. And I didn't want it to be this thing of like an actor coming in for a day and like, are they there? Are they not there? They don't really care. I wanted everyone to really care about being there. And so, yeah, being able to shoot the one shot was as much part of a kind of process for the crew and the cast as it was for kind of narrative. It's kind of being able to go up there and have 2 weeks before shooting, like the film was shot in 9 days, but then we had 2 weeks of full rehearsal before we did it. And that's just amazing. Like, yeah, we shot on the same 5D that I bought on eBay those years before to like practice it. Then we kind of got the Steadicam in, practice on the Steadicam for, you know, about a week. And then, yeah, just had people running around crazy because obviously it's a small film. So we didn't have like all the ADs to cue everyone. So you have to trust the actors to cue themselves. And I feel like once you give people responsibility, it really helps. Like it's like everyone feels like they're involved and they're in it in a completely different way if they have to manage when they're going to step into shot. And the only one who ever mucked anything up was me. Like I walked into 2 shots in that film and I had to post myself out of one, which is really embarrassing. Like,
You could probably get away with it, I imagine.
but I'm always looking at myself going, oh, who's that? Oh, no. You just get in it. You're following them around. You're looking at the monitor and then you suddenly see yourself and you're just like, wow, can't believe I did that.
Right, let's open it up to questions because we could keep going, but I think we should give you the floor. Yep.
Hi. Firstly, congratulations. Epic.
Thanks a lot.
Fucking loved it. I was talking to you outside briefly and you mentioned that your DOP, your Steadicam rather, broke both his wrists.
Oh, yeah.
Can you please expand upon that?
Sorry, I probably should have said not on the film.
Yeah, it was
So-
a bit of a flyby comment and I was like, sorry, what?
So basically, Jake, who's an incredible, obviously, it's just amazing Steadicam. He does yoga, and so every single, sorry, not that wasn't meant to be a bad or a good thing against yoga. I love yoga, but like, it's kind of every time he would stop shooting, he'd go and do yoga, and it was really freaky. So you'd be trying to rehearse the next shot, and there'd be him doing like lotus move just outside or something. It's really always caught
Well,
me
it
off
makes
guard.
sense though because Steadicam operators, they get absolutely battered,
Yeah.
and especially in those incredible tracking shots. Second question, I'm being a little greedy here.
Yeah. I haven't said how he broke his wrist. He had a biking
yeah.
accident about a week later. Broke both his
I
wrists.
thought you were going to say you broke it doing yoga, and I was like,
No,
oh,
sorry,
shit.
no. That's
Right.
can you break a bone doing yoga?
I mean, yeah, you can. So second question was, and it comes off a massive compliment of how beautiful the element of that baby was and the light and the love that his eyes in. Like, firstly, did you just luck out that this baby was just excellent on set, or did you have a guardian on set that helped sort of manage that relationship with the baby?
Well, the mother was there, but like,
Okay.
it was actually, I mean, there's a longer story behind the baby because I remember giving him the script and everyone kind of going, the film was hard anyway, but like,
Yeah, and
putting
you've
the
added a
baby has
child.
made it a
Thanks
lot
a lot,
harder.
buddy. Yeah.
But it was actually that we had 2 kids and one of them cried for an entire day on one take and ruined a whole day of shooting. And the other one didn't cry at all. And they're both credited, but there's actually only one baby in it. And it's the second one. But it was an amazing thing because like when you lose a day effectively on a 9-day shoot, like that puts you in a really horrendous position. It was a Thursday and we're going to the Friday, just really aware that if we didn't nail that Friday, the whole film was really on a knife edge. And it was such a kind of crazy, you know, those kind of nights we have to get everyone together and kind of say, right, we're in
A
a
little
real
powwow.
like,
Yeah.
yeah. And the next day was like, yeah, because I mean, there's a 35-minute shot in the beginning of that film, and so that is we shot. I would have thought that first take is from that Friday. All the
That
baby
single
stuff.
tracking shot all the way up to the lift, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, and then out from the lift to the baby coming back through. I would have said we shot probably an entire third of the film in one day, pretty much,
Mental.
trying to make up for like this issue that happened previously, which, you know, it was always planned to be like this. It wasn't like we kind of went off script or anything. Like we were just shooting what we meant to shoot, but it was quite. Just knowing that that Thursday hadn't worked.
Well, props to that. Props to the spare baby. Absolutely nailed it.
Yeah, everyone needs a spare baby.
More hands, please. Yep, at the back, and then again, then at the front.
Peace. Congratulations again.
Thanks.
I'm right here at the back.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. I love the details in the world. Just in the way the characters interacted. You could see. I don't know how much. Whether you had like a hair consultant. You said you were into it. So anyway, I loved how much those details crept up.
Yeah, I mean. Oh, sorry, that's not the question.
That's
Sorry.
not the question. No. That was just setting it up. My question is, it seems like your previous shorts, you just did what you wanted without necessarily anyone other than collaborators and the people who are working on it being able to suggest things and give you notes. The last short you did, and with this, what was your process for being able to condense notes from the producers, notes from the studio, notes from all the stakeholders basically, and what have you found works and doesn't work?
Wow, that's a really intense question. I'm shooting something at the moment where I've just had like way more intense notes I've probably ever had in my life, and so I've got a different answer today than I would have had probably 2 weeks ago. But do you know what? Sorry, it's really hard to answer because like basically I've always found notes quite helpful. Genuinely, I know it sounds crazy and no one would ever it's usually the moment you get notes, it's like, oh, I want to throw them all out, they're all terrible. But like a lot of the time you know the people where they're coming from, and you kind of, there's always something in there if you actually give it the time to kind of go through it, which I don't know if that's because I've worked for other people when notes have come through who've gone completely mad saying that note's absolutely mental, why would you ever do that, why would I ever think of doing that? And now I'm kind of like, yeah, I just, do you know what, on the thing I'm working on right now, the notes have been so good from the beginning to the end that they've made it significantly better. And we had 3 days to deliver an edit, and that was kind of probably the most crazy schedule I've ever had in my life. And then we had another 3 days to deliver a second edit, and I really, really needed people to look at it with an objective kind of eye, because I was completely out of it, because we've been in the edit, first thing in the morning it's a comedy special, and it's like a stand-up comedian doing a special, and he's an incredible comedian, but like they work on a different schedule to film, so like they expect an edit in 3 days, which I wasn't expecting, and definitely threw me. And kind of like, when you get them back in, if people are kind of actually thoughtful, do you know what, actually, if notes are time coded, someone's watched it twice, because there's no one time codes the first time, I find. And so like when you send it with a time code and it comes back with a time coded note, you kind of know it's been watched twice, that note's been really thought about, and you give it a completely different, like, I don't know, is that mad? But like, I've never had too much of an issue with notes. I kind of feel like, maybe actually because the short films slightly set out where I'm coming from a little bit, like, making film about carpets, making one about lazy eyes, and then hairdressing, they're not necessarily the same stories that kind of are always around. And so like, I've kind of got a specific thing I'm trying to do in each one that was clear from the time I pitched it, clear through the first script, and clear through the edit. And so there's always a kind of like, does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's...
Have you had conflicting notes from the production company and the BFI or BBC Film?
No, actually, no. It's always been, I think everyone talks before it kind of comes to you, and they're usually pretty well thought through. They're not kind of like, I've done a couple of music videos which you've got the artist and the notes are completely insane, and that's a lot worse, because also they're not necessarily from a filmmaking background in the same way, and everyone at the BFI pretty much, and BBC, they're all filmmakers, and they're all kind of caring for it in the same way. I'm trying to think if I've ever had one I really disagreed with. I mean, obviously Medusa's a one shot, so kind of like it was there. It's quite hard to give notes on it, but like during the script phase, helpful actually. I don't think I've had an experience where it wasn't. Sorry, is that not the answer you wanted? Oh, okay.
Just on that point, actually, as someone who's now at the BFI and gives notes, what Tom said, although I didn't work on this film, is like, particularly the public funders, we do collaborate and we do talk to each other and get notes through one person, so they're not all coming, and disagreeing with each other, because that's just a mess. And it's really interesting, because actually I realised how well that works. When you're working with, we just did a film with a big American funder, and those notes were wild and really difficult for the filmmakers. And so we ended up having to become the people who kind of got the filmmaker back into the film in a way, because if it had been up to the American funder, they would have been off it. And so you realise actually the importance of that. So it's quite different in the public space, and then the where like the more commercial, which can be brutal.
I suppose also I've been an assistant, like I was a development assistant, so I've been in other people's, I've been in the room with people when notes were coming through, and so I feel like I'd seen it from all different angles. And like there are people who worked on Medusa who kind of I knew from being an assistant, and I kind of always knew that their notes were strong. Like Eva at BBC, like her notes are phenomenal. Like I would always listen to what she's got to say.
Hello.
Hey.
I was just wondering what the significance of the ship was in the hair. What was it called? The Orient?
Yeah.
Was
well,
that-
it's
was
from
that a
Marie
decision
Antoinette, but
from
like
you?
it's a quote from Marie Antoinette because they did actually put those ships in hair in
It's
that
very
in that
Marie.
era. So yeah, it was like a real thing. But there's also an Alexander McQueen version of that, which Eugene, who did the hair on this film, actually did himself. So it was like there's a few different things going on because something I wanted to say actually with the hair. So Eugene Sullivan, who did the hair in this film, he's like such an incredible hairdresser. Like I followed him for years and I desperately begged him to do this film. And there's this thing where he kind of like, he'll always show the artifice. Like he'll always like deconstruct hair. He's always trying to work out how he can push it in a new direction because he's from like the punk era and that's his kind of like DNA. He'd worked with like Westwood, McQueen, Margiela, like all of like Galliano, all the most incredible designers who I look up to. And it was kind of like, that's why he did this film. Like it's kind of, like it's all about the artifice. It's all about kind of taking apart a murder mystery and showing you the backstage and everything. And it was kind of trying to find someone who would get that and put that into the characters of the hair. And he gave an amazing quote when we were doing the hairdressing. Like he was like, I want to be a method hairdresser. And he wanted to like be like, method acting in the guise of the hairdressers for each person. And it was real like special to see him do it. He's incredible.
Knockout. Okay, one more question.
Amazing film. You said at the beginning of your career you were at a point where you essentially just quit your job and went for it. And speaking as somebody who's about to do that,
wow.
I just wondered if you could say some words about how terrifying that was and how you got through that process, because I guess it's pretty scary.
How did I get through it? I just ate through my savings, and then got lucky. I mean, like it's so hard. It's like because the thing is, I don't know how you can. It's so hard to make a short film, and you have to show what you can do before anyone's going to take a risk on you. Understandably, like no, like it's you've kind of got to do it almost, and it's like, I guess having a plan, obviously, like. I think that's important. Like I knew I was going to make this short. Like I knew I had a particular amount of money, I had a particular amount of time, and I'd kind of written down how I was going to do it, and was trying to make sure I used the experience I'd had from being on other people's films to putting it into that at the same time, not just pulling a load of favors and doing like a mate's holiday sort of thing. Like, which is great. I don't have anything against that, but there's that thing when you make a short film that you've got to kind of like you've got to have a sense of importance to it. In the sense that you would if you made a real, like if it's actually a full feature film. And sometimes short films can just feel like everyone's just gone away for a weekend. And I think that's the real struggle actually, to make it feel as important as you obviously think it is, which is absurd because obviously a short film's not important. Like it feels important, but you've got to get yourself into a sense of delusion, which I guess if you're going to quit your job to do anything, you're already in you're already in that space. But like, yeah, I do look back on that, especially recently, because like it's never easy to kind of keep when you're freelance, it's pretty mental actually. And so I do kind of go back going, I cannot believe it. Like, sorry, that's not what you want to hear. I look back thinking I'm so happy I did that.
How long did you give yourself?
6 months.
6 months, yeah.
And so yeah,
But then you were making ads and music videos.
not at that time.
Okay.
I quit working for Mike, made Medusa,
Yeah.
made Radical Hardcore, Days picked it up, and then some people offered me some ad
Yeah,
opportunities.
right. So, but it
That
opened
was-
doors.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, that was everything. Like,
Yeah.
and that came within about a year, and then I did about 5 things sort of back to back. But they were always like, they're never like kind of. There's like 2 different worlds of ads. There's like the ones who do like giant, crazy, massive ads. It was never in that realm.
Yeah.
It was much more like I always was taking stuff to kind of basically learn. I did one that was like a documentary, one that was like a one shot that was practice for this actually.
Yeah.
And so it was always trying to treat it as a film school.
Yeah.
That was kind of how I was approaching it.
And then what doors has Medusa Deluxe opened, and what's next, Tom?
Well, the comedy special was right next. So Leo, the comedian, saw Medusa and then said, "Do I want to do this comedy special?"
And you
so
had
that's-
no connection to him whatsoever. He
No.
just saw the work and
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, he saw it at the Rio in Dalston, and it was just really nice actually, because I'd walked past it a few times, seeing Medusa there, thinking I wonder if anyone was actually going, and then it was really nice because he did go, saw it, and then came through and said, "Do you want to do a comedy special?" And I kind of said yes, thinking it was going to be amazing and kind of like just sail through it sort of thing. And it was a much bigger leap than I expected. So like I'd never done multi-camera before. Like multi-camera is a completely different world. comedy specials, TV, all of that's a different world. Like they don't have DOPs in the same way. So you've got a camera director and you've got a lighting director, and so I'm so used to kind of like, if it was Robbie on this, like saying, oh, can we just move a light quickly? And I've got to go to a completely different person, and they really don't necessarily talk to each other. And the weirdest thing about it is you all do it from a bus outside where you're on a radio to the entire crew. So if you don't like something, you've got to say in front of 50 people all on radio, that bit of lighting, I hate it, what are we doing? And it's so weird. Like, obviously I don't say it like that, but like it was, I mean, I had probably my worst hour ever on set with it, where I went out to this bus and I said to everyone, I don't know how to use this thing. Like, I've never done this multi-camera thing before. Can you just show me how to use the controls of the radios? And they forgot to do it, which is completely fine. Everyone's busy. But I went into this bus for the first test, and it's an HBO special. And so the head of HBO production was right there. Really nice person, but she'd flown over from America. And I was literally sitting there thinking, I cannot let her know I don't know how to use these buttons. And it was literally, there's like 50 buttons. And I was going, oh my God, what am I going to do? And so I had to pretend I needed the loo, had to go and get someone to come back in, show me how to use these buttons like really slyly, and eventually picked it up. But it was just sitting there kind of going, yeah, that whole hour, just, I'd never want to have another moment on set like that. So
You starred it out, Tom. I'm not surprised. And then you're writing something. BBC are developing it.
Yeah. It's about economics, and it's about money, basically. I've kind of been wanting to write about the Argentinian economy for a long time, and been trying to work out how. And it's not necessarily about Argentina, but it's inspired by Argentina. I always just remember growing up and everyone just talking about how they're always in and out of crisis. And obviously you always think, like, why has everyone got a fixation on Argentina? Like, we're miles away. And I kind of just wanted to figure out what it was, and so did a load of research to understand why the Argentinian economy has been the way it has been for 50 years or so, and I'm just writing about that. So that's kind of, but from a slightly different perspective. But that's the inspiration. It's I can give an answer if anyone's ever want to.
Tom, you are eclectic. I think you're the epitome of eclectic. And also, can you just say one last thing about what the experience of Medusa Deluxe, like traveling into the world, has been like for you? Because it's come out of the US, it's been out here, it's on Mubi. You've travelled to multiple other places. I mean, what's that experience like? What does it mean to you for people to actually watch it?
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Like, you know, you always, from the beginning, I was always trying to work out how I could write things about things I was interested in a way that would allow people to enjoy them in the way I do. Like, I'm passionate about hairdressing. I want people to enjoy it. And yeah, that moment of people seeing it is pretty special. You can't really believe it. I mean, it was pretty, like, when it premiered at Locarno, it was like this crazy, 8,000 person auditorium, and it was a thunderstorm, so no one could watch it. And so that was pretty upsetting. But then when it kind of had, it's London Film Festival and all of that sort of stuff, it's really amazing. The best one actually is, there's this thing called Fantastic Festival. Do you know it? In Austin. And it was just amazing, because every festival, like, obviously festivals are amazing, but obviously there's a lot of film people in festivals, which is absolutely fine, all really nice. But like, this one it's only like people of Austin and people who like horror films, and I'm not actually into horror at all, but everyone who loves horror films travels to this particular festival, and they all come like dressed in blood and everything. And I was walking down, and this guy, he was like a nurse from Pennsylvania, and he just really into horror, so come to this festival, and he was going to see Medusa. And I was trying to work out whether I say or not that, like, it's my film. And it was just really nice talking to him. And I suddenly realised that every single person at this festival was actually like just an actual normal person. And they were just there to see films. I mean, they were there to see slasher films. But like, yeah, that was the best experience of the whole thing. That was really special. That was the one that mattered.
So I think we will be hearing from you many more times. And what a range of eclectic work. And yeah, congratulations, Tom. Thanks. It was a privilege to talk to you and work with you. So congratulations.
No, thanks for coming down as well.
I think we now have, are you back on?
I'll come back on.
A final message from our sponsors.
Folks, please thank Tom and Mia. Do you have one last word?
No, sorry.
Thank you to Tom and Mia. That fantastic chat.
Thank you so much.